the culture he's curated down there.
For WKXX Live, these guys have you covered from preps to pros and everything in between. Now, let's go inside the Fox Sports 102.9 studio with Chase and Gerhard for WKXX Live.
And then there was one. We've made it to the final edition of WKXX Live on this Friday, January the 13th. How about that? Friday the 13th. Welcome in, Chase and Gerhard with you as we've been telling you all week. This is the final edition of WKXX Live here on Fox Sports 102.9. And we're excited to be with you one more time till 4 o'clock. And we've got a lot to get to, but we do want to get your phone calls in today, 256-413-1029. No guests today, just us and your phone calls. No phone calls in the last segment, though. That's going to be time for us. So get your phone calls in before that last segment, 256-413-1029. But certainly glad we get to spend one more show together and doing what we love to do.
100%. And there's still a lot of things in the sports world to talk about, and some big shakeup as it relates to college football and all the things that we love, and even racing and some of the other things. So we'll get into a lot of that. But yeah, it is good to do it one more time. Yes, it is. And you mentioned racing. We don't talk a lot of racing. We went into the last show to spend a good bit on racing. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But again, your phone calls coming up at 256-413-1029. We've been telling you this week that changes are coming here to WKXX Live. So we're going to unveil that to you to start the show today as well. So today's our last day, and Monday, 102.9 will become Alabama's Country Classics, WKXX 102.9. So we will be switching off of the sports format, off of Fox Sports, and it will be WKXX Alabama's Country Classics. So you'll be able to hear classic country from the 1980s, 90s, into the early 2000s. So that will begin Monday. You'll hear Shane Wilson from 6 to 9 a.m. He'll get your day started on Monday with the new format, with the morning show each morning. So be listening here to WKXX starting Monday for classic country taking over the airwaves here on 102.9. Like you said, a lot going on in the sports world. We got NFL wild card this weekend. We've got college basketball this weekend. But with the national championship being Monday, this is the time where you kind of start hearing some of these coaching changes, especially on the assistant coach side of things. And Clemson has made a big offensive coordinator hire. We mentioned yesterday that they were in need of an offensive coordinator. They let go Brandon Streeter after just a season. And, Clemson's been one of those places they've consistently kept their coordinators. Yeah, no, and it's and it's shown. Like they've been successful. Last year, Brandon Streeter, it just didn't work out. And Clemson has gone out and hired Garrett Riley from TCU to be their offensive coordinator. They're writing a big check as well, but certainly a splash hire for Dabo Swinney. Yeah, and this is, as you mentioned, a little bit uncharacteristic of what Clemson normally does, because they have been a family unit, so to speak. Brent Venables was there for forever. Just turned down job after job after job, and then finally Oklahoma came knocking, and very few people could say no to that. Then you had Tony Elliott, who stayed around for a really long time before he ended up leaving, and then you had Streeter, and this season didn't work out. A lot of that was because of DJ Uiagalelei and the fact that they just couldn't get him rolling offensively. Yeah. And the fact that Dabo Swinney has done this, it's really the first major home run, I would say, since those big games that they won to make them not go 8-4, those big splash games that got them into the championship hunt right before they won a championship. Right. This feels to me in that ballpark, going out and getting probably, I would say, the best right now assistant coach as far as the awards go. I know Monday night's results don't really look this way, but as far as the overall perspective of assistant coaches, he seems to be the biggest name on the board right now. And honestly, when the talk of Bill O'Brien possibly leaving the Crimson Tide, Garrett Riley was the first name that came to my mind about Alabama. Like he seems like a guy Nick Saban would go out and get, but Dabo is able to pick him up for Clemson. How do you think he can handle Cade Klubnik? Is he going to be a coach that can? Because you feel Cade is the better quarterback than DJ. We saw that throughout the year, but he hasn't got a lot of opportunities. Now he will, obviously. Is Garrett Riley a good coach for him?
I think so. And I know I'll talk about this a little bit more optimistically, but my big thing is this. I think if you're good with a quarterback and you're good with adjusting with his skill set, then you'll be good with just about any quarterback, because then what you could do is you're not going to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying his brother is him, but Lincoln Riley has been the epitome of this. Lincoln Riley's been able to take and mold quarterbacks into the best version of themselves. And now we're seeing the kind of the heightened example of that with a guy like Jalen Hurts. He had him for a year at Oklahoma, molded him a little bit. Now Hurts is in the NFL and a possible MVP candidate. He's a guy, to me, this is Lincoln Riley, that I think can mold quarterbacks. Now, has that same quality transferred over to Garrett Riley? Well, as of right now, where he sits in his very young career as an assistant coach, he's been able to do that. Help Max Duggan go to a Heisman Trophy ceremony. Not saying that he's the greatest thing. I don't know about every one of his schemes and whatnot, but to me, if the starting point is Cade Klubnik, I think you have a really good piece of clay to work with. And if you're flexible, then I think you can work overall with Clemson's offense and what they're trying to do there in the ACC and get back in the national championship hunt.
Yeah, to be able to go out and get Garrett Riley, a name like that, to come lead your offense, you could tell Clemson's not going anywhere. And I think a lot of people like to put Clemson right now in that category, that they haven't been, a prominent team really in the last 2 years. Well, we can push them out. But I think with this hire, I think it shows, one, Clemson's not going anywhere, and two, they're going to take the necessary steps to get back there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do the early odds to win, whether it's a championship, a national championship, a conference championship, get to the playoff. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to see where Clemson's odds, if they have changed. I know it's still reported right now. There's apparently a board meeting, I think, going on as we speak to approve the contract. And so once that contract is approved, I wonder if those odds will even jump up a little measure. Because if so, the odds makers are telling you this is a key hire for Clemson, and he helped TCU's offense in the year that he was there. He helped TCU's offense in 1 year gain about 14 points. That's 2 touchdowns per game. If he could help do Clemson something even similar, it doesn't even have to be that, then you got a real chance here at a team that could take that next step into the championship fold.
Yep. So Clemson hiring Garrett Riley as offensive coordinator for the Tigers. We've talked a lot about Alabama's coordinator situation. The fact that we really don't expect Bill O'Brien to be back as offensive coordinator. That's been made clear by several people. He's still there. He's still on campus, still has a job. Haven't heard anything about a contract extension, which makes you think.
That's the biggest thing, though.
Right.
Is the fact that there's no contract extension. There hasn't been talks of a contract extension, and his contract is going to be running out. I'm not sure the exact date, but it's after this past football season.
Yeah.
So he's too good to be jobless. And so I don't know where he goes after this, but you're right. The biggest thing is we haven't heard talk of a contract extension.
Yeah, and so it's kind of in question what's going to happen. Pete Golding, defensive coordinator, from what he says, is still under contract. The rumors are hot and heavy right now, though, that Pete Golding could be exiting Tuscaloosa and heading over to join his buddy Lane Kiffin over at Ole Miss.
This is an interesting one because, to me, I think on one hand, it seems kind of head-scratching. Like, why would you leave the greatest coach in the history of college football, who happens to coach your side of the ball, to go to another place? But at Ole Miss, you would feel a little bit more like the head coach of the defense, instead of maybe like a co-head coach, so to speak, so far of the defense, like he is at Alabama. If he does, I'm sure he'll gain a lot more responsibility. The challenge is certainly there. But you're still in the SEC West. You still got to defend against whatever Alabama brings back and whatever Brian Kelly is bringing back and whoever their crossovers are, Mississippi State, in-state. I don't see how this is such a great job unless you just want a different challenge of coaching at Ole Miss, or if this is the nice way that Coach Saban says, hey, go look for some other jobs elsewhere. That way I don't have to fire you. It's kind of like the rumors that we're hearing right now with the LA Rams, that there might be a few guys on Sean McVay's staff that he just doesn't like. So he's like, hey, go find other work. That way I don't have to fire you.
Yep.
I don't know if it's one of those situations, but it does seem like an interesting move for all parties involved. For Alabama, if they need now both coordinators, and for Pete Golding himself going to another SEC West rival.
Right. And fun fact, Nick Saban has never fired a coordinator in his time as a head coach. If that tells you anything, they'll go find a new job before he fires them. So that's nothing official out on Pete Golding, but that's what a lot of folks are saying. I don't trust anyone that covers Ole Miss football after the Lane Kiffin debacle. So until that it is set in stone and in writing, and the official press release from the University of Mississippi comes out, I'm not going to believe it.
They held all of our Twitter feeds hostage for about a good 10 days, I would say, the reporters out there. So until they get their ducks in a row, I'm going to wait here on some of the national guys to come out and report for sure anything's happening on that Ole Miss campus, because they swung and missed big time last time.
Well, let me just say this here. It is official now. Chris Lowe from ESPN has reported that that Pete Golding just a few minutes ago, that Pete Golding is leaving Alabama to go be the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss. So it is Chris Lowe. I trust him completely. And so it's happening.
It's like your wish is my command, so to speak. I was waiting for one of the national guys. I'm waiting for a Thamel, for a Brett McMurphy, for Chris Lowe to do it, because I don't trust what's coming on from the sources down there. And I'm sure they're good reporters. I mean, the sourcing might just be crazy with rumors that they run with. But now that Chris Lowe says it, wow, that's really interesting. And so if now Alabama doesn't retain Bill O'Brien, Nick Saban is once again in a position where he's the head coach and his two top dog assistants are in need of replacing.
So who would you make the call to if you're Nick Saban looking for a defensive coordinator?
If I'm Nick Saban looking for a defensive coordinator, this one's interesting because I think you can go a lot of different places. Give me some time to think on that. D coordinator is going to be a little bit interesting because Nick Saban is still such a heavy part of the defensive game planning. I know he doesn't coach. Most of the time he's defensive coordinator. Like, for example, Pete Golding worked really hands-on with the linebackers. Kirby Smart, the exact same way. But then those two kind of come together for the scheme and for the overall game plan. I'll have to think on D coordinator. I think I have my offensive coordinator in mind if I'm head coach Nick Saban, but I think defensive wise he can go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and defensive coordinators aren't near as prominent as offensive coordinators a lot of times. So you may hear names of reports of who it could be, and you're like, well, who's that?
Right.
But because offensive coordinators, I feel, are much more out there than defensive coordinators.
Yeah.
But Nick Saban's a defensive guy, so you got to imagine that he's going to get a really good coach to lead his defense. But hey, last show, big news coming out like this, I'll take it.
Yeah, no doubt, and especially if this is followed up with a move from whether it's Bill Belichick with the New England Patriots or somebody else that is looking for an offensive coordinator that Bill O'Brien might go to. It's an interesting news day so far.
Well, I tell you, if I'm Nick Saban looking for a defensive coordinator, I'm going to make one phone call, and I think he'll come, and that's Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah.
Get Jeremy Pruitt back in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, that'd be huge. And it'll be one of those situations where once you come back into the fold, I think a lot of people already liked him, and now you have a hungry coach that wants to get back, which I always think really works out. And not to mention he's from right here in the listening area, and we know people. We both know him. We know people that know him too, and so it'll be a good marriage to have him back.
Yeah, sure would. And he's a great defensive coach as well. So big news today: Pete Golding is reportedly heading to Ole Miss. This reported by Chris Lowe, a very trustworthy source in college football, that Pete Golding is heading to Ole Miss. We'll take a break here. Much more to get to as we roll on this afternoon. Final show. And we're going to have some fun with it this afternoon. Stick around.
At the YMCA.
WKXX Live, Fox Sports 1029, Chase and Gerhard, making our way through this Friday afternoon on our final edition of WKXX Live. Would love to hear from you, the great listeners today, 256-413-1029, as we get ready to put a wrap on WKXX Live and Fox Sports 102.9, as we reported at the top of the show, beginning Monday. You'll be listening to WKXX, Alabama's Country Classics 102.9. So Classic Country begins here on Monday. So we are wrapping up WKXX Live in the era of Fox Sports 102.9 today. And so we're glad to be with you and would love to hear from you. Jacksonville State last night. The men finally get on the win column in ASUN play. We've been waiting on that. Not a great start in conference, but they're able to come back home and get a win over North Florida, 72-63. And what a night for a guy who we've seen on the roster. We've seen him come on the court, Marcellus Brigham. But last night was his coming out party.
It certainly was. And these last two games have been part of a storyline for Jacksonville State basketball that I think is really interesting. This is a team that won the regular season and the conference championship last year, ended up representing the conference in the big dance. A season ago, they had to replace all five starters, but it's taken this team a little while to build some continuity. But one of the biggest and best things is, and this is when you have good coaching, is when they can identify a problem and then start to create some solutions. That's exactly what Ray Harper has done. Marcellus Brigham was a guy that was averaging about maybe like 5 to 10 minutes a game. Minutes, not points, minutes. And over the last couple of years, I don't know if Marcellus Brigham has done so in practice or maybe changed some perspectives, but the last two games he started, he put up a 9-point performance that was a career high in the game before against Bellarmine. JSU played very well in the first half and made you know that the start was good, but they couldn't close it out. Didn't play all 40 minutes. Then yesterday, they get contributions everywhere, and Brigham leads them with 21 points and outscores their two leading scorers combined. Their point total combined, Damari King and Skylar Potter, not as high as Marcellus Brigham Jr. There's a lot of guys who just find it when they get the start. I think he's one of them, and I think it's twofold. It's him getting the start, but it's not him carrying the team. It's him being a part of a new identity of offense that I think Jacksonville State has now found a new recipe.
Yeah, and that's a great point because teams are successful when more than two guys, more than 2 or 3 guys can put points on the board. Jacksonville State has needed somebody else to step up and be able to score, and maybe they found somebody, and they did last night, obviously, a great night for Brigham, but they've needed somebody else that they could lean to on offense, and hey, maybe they found it.
Right, and I think Brigham is going to be a part of a little core group of guys that will be the anchor of that second unit of scoring. You have Damari King, great three-point shooter, but teams will come out on him and really try to force him off that three-point line. You saw it yesterday against North Florida. Teams like guys like Skylar Potter, he's very good. Sometimes he can be a little streaky. He's found a nice, consistent pace as of right now. Then who was that third guy? I think you hit it. I think it's Marcellus Brigham that can lead that third group. Juwan Purdue also had a great game, as well as Peyton Daniels, the freshman transfer from Vanderbilt, or sophomore transfer from Vanderbilt. So I think that this is a team that has now found a little something from a rhythmic standpoint, and now can they carry it over? This team has been positive throughout their losing stretch, which is hard to do. It's hard to do when you're losing, but they've been positive, and they now found a little wrinkle. And we'll see if they can carry this, with them through the season. Things will obviously get a little bit more difficult with a couple of tough games coming up. I got I think Jacksonville coming up tomorrow. I have Jacksonville tomorrow, and they got another big game coming up right after that. So it'll be an interesting little stretch here for JSU. But if they continue what they did yesterday, then I think that they'll be able to find some success and then get back to 500 in the league.
Yeah, and that's going to be important. And again, you got Jacksonville tomorrow. They beat you on the road. You got them at home. The students are back. I know you were at the game last night. Good crowd.
Yeah, very good crowd. It's one of those where, every winter sport has to deal with the fact that you play right in the middle of the holiday break. And so some good cops before holiday break, you don't get as many students out. But yesterday, once again, another good turnout at Pete Matthews Coliseum.
Yep. And so Jacksonville is at Jacksonville State, or we can call them Jack State.
Jack State now. Yeah.
Yes, on the men's side. Jack State women last night go to Austin Peay. They're on a little road stretch here, and they lost a close one, 47-43.
Yeah, this is an interesting situation here for the JSU women after, having a solid start, a really good non-conference little slate of games there. But now, it's kind of, to me, they almost complete opposite story of the men, where the guys replaced all 5 starters and the women are now all back. However, the league has also got a lot of teams back as well. So this JSU basketball team, they've scored 81 in a loss and they've scored 40 something in a win. So they can win and lose all kinds of different ways. They can be high scoring in a high scoring game and lose those games. They can be low scoring and win those games. Yesterday happened to be another low scoring game against a solid Austin Peay basketball team. And so they'll stay up there in Tennessee and they'll try to turn things around coming up this weekend. But another tough one there in the A-Sun after getting a win against Queens a week ago.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the scoring for the women. What can Jacksonville State's women do to be able to ensure points on the board?
I think they have to find a little mold. I think their magic number is in the 70s, about 70 to 75 points per game is their magic number because they play such good defense. Now, when they get in these low-scoring games and these low-scoring tussles, so to speak, it's really hard for them to generate a lot of offense. And so then when teams match them up defensively, it becomes a difficult game for them, a game that I don't think that they do really well in playing. To me, Amari Martin is a core piece of the scoring there. But just like we talked about with Damari King, a little undersized and teams run them off the three-point line. So when the teams run off the three-point line, can you get scoring from your point guards? That's Nakia Thompson, that's Shanta Shaw. Both of them are really solid. And then can you get consistent scoring down low in the post? Kennedy Gavin had a great stretch of games, scored 20, 19, I think 20, 24 in a career high in double-doubles in just about every one of those games. If they can consistently get her scoring down low, it frees up everything else with Amari Martin and your guards in the backcourt, and then letting off those three-point shots. I think Rick Petrie's still finding his team. Defensively, they still want to have that identity. However, offensively, I think this is where they need to find some more consistency.
Yep. So Jacksonville State men get the win. Women lose yesterday, and they'll be back in action tomorrow. More A-Sun conference play. We'll grab a break here. Come back, talk some SEC basketball. We've got much more to get to. We roll on our final edition of WKXX Live. Stick around.
The press.
It is WKXX Live, Fox Sports 1029, WKXX.com. Chase Robinson, Gerhard Mathigani. We are here for our final show of WKXX Live. Would love to hear from you today, 256-413-1029. That is 256-413-1029. So many people have reached out this week, talked with several coaches and some of the listeners as well. And it has been truly an honor to get to do this every afternoon, to talk with you, the listeners, talk with our great guests. And we will definitely miss doing this, as we'll talk more about that later on. But it is our final show today. Monday begins Alabama's Country Classics 102.9. So you'll be hearing classic country from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s here on WKXX beginning Monday. We reported the news earlier in the show. Pete Golding is heading to Ole Miss. So Alabama will be in search of a new defensive coordinator. 3 names I've seen a lot of in the last few minutes from some insiders. They said, watch out for Glenn Schumann. He is the co-defensive coordinator at Georgia right now. Jim Leonhard, Wisconsin's defensive coordinator, and Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah, those are the 3 hot names right now. I think Jeremy Pruitt makes a lot of sense naturally. Jim Leonhard is a guy who his stock has really risen over the last couple of years, and especially after last year, one of the nation's best defenses as far as statistics go. Great defensive mind. I'm not sure if he and Coach Saban have a background or what the extent of their background might be. Obviously, we know Jeremy Pruitt's background with head coach Nick Saban, and we'll see if maybe if they could take an assistant coach from the defending national champion, 2-time national champion, and steal some of the things that are going on over in Athens and Tuscaloosa. If I'm ranking them, I would probably say Pruitt 1, Leonhard 2, and then Schulman 3. So we'll see though, but this is a prime position. To me, the OC is a bigger one as far as the stature goes for what Alabama's offense will look like from an identity standpoint. But this is certainly a big decision here for head coach Nick Saban.
It is. It sure is. We'll get to more college football a little bit later on, but I do want to talk some college basketball because we have a big weekend of SEC basketball on tap. And first of all, I think it's going to be a crucial game for Kentucky as Kentucky goes to Tennessee tomorrow. Tennessee playing good basketball. Kentucky, not really.
Right.
That's a tough place to play in Tennessee. If Kentucky gets this win, I'm not going to count Kentucky out at all right now.
Yeah, no, you can't because they still have the talent. They were considered a top team for a reason in the SEC, and one of the teams picked to win the SEC championship, and I think they're kind of like a player away. They feel like not really a player away, a game away from re-energizing that program. It's a lot like we talked about with Jacksonville State just a moment ago. They have the talent there, but can they just get that one big win and get over the top? Now, this game being in Knoxville will be tough, but I think if they are able to get that, then Calipari, we played some of his sound a little earlier. We said blame himself. We played that a little bit earlier this week. I think they understand they have the talent, but can they get over the hump and win that big ball game? Tennessee will certainly represent that.
Yep, they will. So that is coming up tomorrow. Also, you've got Georgia at Ole Miss, Arkansas at Vanderbilt, Missouri at Florida, Texas A&M at South Carolina. You've got LSU at Alabama and Mississippi State at Auburn.
Yeah, these are a really fun slate of games here, and some games where we might being the operative word, might see some upsets because if Kentucky goes into Tennessee and wins the basketball game, you'll be like, well, this is the same team that lost to Alabama by 30. But, Tennessee every now and again has shown some holes, and so I won't be surprised about that. Bama hosting LSU is a really important game. We just watched South Carolina knock off Kentucky. Well, can South Carolina knock off Texas A&M, was one of the better teams right now in the SEC as far as their record goes, and hungry to make it back to the big dance after missing it last year? Maybe. Missouri, one of the best scoring teams in the entire SEC, takes on a really solid Florida basketball team. Arkansas, can they bounce back and knock off a Vanderbilt? That game will be interesting as well. So some interesting games here on the slate. And, of course, Mississippi State, who came into the season as one of the top 25 teams, will take on Auburn. Yeah,
and, that could be an interesting one to watch as well. As far as LSU and Alabama, this game has kind of turned into a bit of a rivalry game on the hardwood, as is in football. But lately, especially with Will Wade on the sideline at LSU, and there's some really entertaining games over the last few years between these two teams.
Yeah, there's been some bad blood there between these two squads. Alabama and LSU will always be a rivalry. I think that football is obviously a natural rivalry, and baseball has been a really interesting rivalry as well with LSU and their great program. But then it turned to that same thing in basketball. Some off-the-court things have really led to that rivalry aspect between these two teams. And then some on-the-court situations as well over the last couple of years. LSU also has been really good in these last few years on the court. Now, they're struggling right now coming into this game, which makes this one a little bit more interesting because do you still bring that same fight? You got it for Kentucky because it's Big Blue Nation. And then you got it for Arkansas because they have a little number 15 or 16 by their name. They're a ranked team. Now, can you give that same energy to an LSU team who's on a bit of a downslide? That, to me, is the big challenge because it's not the same LSU situation that they've played against here over the last few years.
And Nate Oates talked about that today.
Yeah, he certainly did, and talked about the preparation and the mindset that these guys can bring. Will it match some of their other games that they've had so far?
A lot more must-win for them than for us. So, to me, that's a maturity test. I told our guys, basketball's an emotional game. You get up for some games. Obviously, Arkansas, with the way that they've been recruiting and, where they were ranked, you're going to get up for that game. Kentucky's Kentucky, you're going to get up for that game. Got the big rival game with Auburn, you're going to get up for that game. LSU's been a rivalry since I've got here, but they've lost 3 in a row. Can you still prepare for LSU losing 3 in a row like you just prepared for Arkansas? To me, that's a sign of maturity. Like, you got to do what you got to do if you're going to compete for an SEC championship, and you can't lose home games to teams you're supposed to beat because you didn't prepare for them. So we challenge our guys, like, are your video numbers, are you on the video looking at scouting reports or personnel like you would be if we were playing Auburn, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky? If they are, and we're doing what we're supposed to do, then, and we come out with the energy we need to come out with, then, we'll show them we've matured. So we'll see how mature we are tomorrow. It takes what it takes, and you got to be ready to play every game, no matter whether you're coming off a big win or a loss or tight game or whatever. Like, we got to be ready to go every game.
Nate Oates talking about this LSU game, having the right mindset heading into it, and we'll see if the Crimson Tide do have that mindset coming up tomorrow as they host LSU, as I'm sure a lot of folks will be packed in Coleman Coliseum.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard the parallels the way that I heard it. It makes it sound a lot like, to me, we played the audio clip during the football season when Nick Saban said, nobody should come to practice and know who we're playing. Nobody should come to practice and see a different sense of intensity because we're playing LSU or Georgia as compared to Western Kentucky, Western Carolina, or whoever it is. It feels like this team has really taken to that mentality. And as Coach Oates said, we will see tomorrow if the maturity is really there, because if Alabama does take that mindset into it, I think they beat LSU with no problem.
Yeah, and that's a really good example there. Is I do remember Saban saying that, and you could tell, and you kind of came with this basketball team as well. So Alabama hosting LSU tomorrow, and Auburn hosting Mississippi State. So both of our SEC and state schools at home tomorrow in SEC play. We'll jump to a break here. We'll come back and talk a little racing. How about that? On our final edition of WKXX Live, we'll take your phone calls as well. We continue in a moment.
So you need
It is WKXX Live on Fox Sports 102.9. Chase Robinson, Gerhard Mathigani. We are here for the final time as we roll through our final show of WKXX Live this afternoon. We do till 4 o'clock. We're taking your phone calls, 256-413-1029. And we do go to the phone lines to start this segment. We got Coach Short on with us. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing fine, guys. I just thought I would make my final call for the day.
Yeah.
But what a final day to have the Alabama defensive coordinator up and decides to go to Ole Miss.
Yep, that we haven't got a lot of breaking news during this 2 to 4 hour in the time we've been doing this show. But hey, on our last day, we get the news drop in the middle of the show.
Yeah, it got things rocking real quickly.
Yeah.
People have been talking about it forever, so I'll go ahead and throw my 2 cents in there on who I think it'll be. And y'all already mentioned his name, and I'll say why. I'll go ahead and throw Jeremy Pruitt back in there.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people are going to say, well, he did a lot of things at Tennessee. I said, yeah, the things he got accused of are all legal now.
Everything. That's a good point.
Everything he did is legal now.
Yep.
Okay, so, but probably the 2 things he has is people are going to say, well, is there a show cause that says he can't come back for a while? I think because of the NIL and all that now, I don't think that'll hold water in court. And he has one of the most powerful lawyers. I didn't say he has one of the most powerful lawyers. I didn't say agent, but you know who his agent is?
Is he about to say is he a Jimmy Sexton client? I feel like he represents all of college football.
He does just about, and he's one of their and he represents him. So if anybody's going to get anything done, it would be Jimmy Sexton, and that would be why him and his lawyer would be the one I would think would bring it back. Plus, he could hold, him and Coach Saban having that connection together. Defensive philosophies are a lot alike. And of course, there's a lot of good ones out there, in the world today because defense has become, I guess you'd say, not as relevant as most people. But, Kirby and Pruitt are good buddies, so they all share a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And they're constantly stealing each other's ideas. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not Jeremy Pruitt, and a lot of it will have to do because Jimmy Sexton is his agent, and he'll make it happen.
I believe so. And the thing, I think the biggest thing is the familiarity with Jimmy, not with Jimmy Sexton, with him too, but with Jeremy Pruitt. Another name that keeps getting tossed around is Jim Leonard from Wisconsin. And I mean, he's built a crazy defense. Now, I don't know if he and Saban have any background together whatsoever. I know their paths might have crossed at a camp or somewhere down the road. But to me, Jeremy Pruitt seems like the perfect fit.
Yeah, you went one. I think a while ago I listened to you give a 1. Jeremy Pruitt 1, and then the kid from Wisconsin 2, and then what's the kid's name? Kid, the man's name, young man's name.
Glenn Schumann.
Schumann, yeah.
Schumann. That wouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah.
Don't let that be a surprise just because of his familiarity with what they do defense. Because when you watch Georgia and you watch Alabama, the intricacies are the same. I mean,
right.
It's there. And what does Alabama struggle with sometimes? Running quarterbacks that can throw the ball down the field. Georgia struggles with the same thing.
Exactly.
So it's the exact same thing. So look at Ohio State. Running quarterback that can throw the ball downfield. So those are the things that wouldn't be a surprise. He'll be somebody familiar to him.
Right.
And then we'll see about the offensive side. That'll probably happen next week.
Yeah. And I was going to just chime in here. The Schumann thing would be really interesting because as of right now, Georgia defensively, think of their brain trust defensively.
Yeah.
It's Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, and Schumann. They essentially have 3 guys that can run a defense.
Yeah, and one of them, your youngest one, would probably be the one that would go out to be a true defensive coordinator and get out from under Kirby's shadow.
Yeah. Do you think Saban would want to go young with Schumann or older with Pruitt? Like, do you think he likes going young now? He kind of did with Pete Golding.
Yeah, but if he takes Schumann, if he had a choice, he'll take Pruitt because he's been there and he's also his connection to pro football. I think that Jeremy's been doing some pro football here lately too. So, Saban really loves that pro football connection because what does he do? Recruit like to hear that this guy has been doing pro football. That's where they're wanting to get to. So if he had a choice, that's where he would go. But if it's, if he's kind of lacking a little bit, because he's going to have to move here in the next probably 5 days, because, you're talking about your next recruiting cycle. We've got another signing day coming up. So it'll have to be pretty quick. But if he can get Schumann, he can't go wrong with either one of them, because I do know he likes young guys. But, there's a fire in Jeremy Pruitt right now still to get back and prove, like, guys, I can still coach football, and I'll just show you.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree. And I think that even from you mentioned philosophy. I think that's a big thing too. And I don't know how much has changed from Bama's offense from a scheme standpoint, but I can't imagine too much has changed. And so he'd be able to fit it right in like a glove and be able to help with the install and everything else. And I feel like the defense as a whole will be a little bit at a faster click with Pruitt there.
Oh, it would. And here's a great example. Henry To'oTo'o even said it. He said, when I got here, it was easy for me to relate to what Alabama does because it was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of verbiage change is all it was, because each coach wants to put his little stamp on it. But he said everything else was pretty much the same philosophy-wise.
Yeah.
And then OC-wise, me and you may see the same OC with our favorite team next year in the pros. Big BC may be with our Patriots next year.
Yeah.
We may have to deal with that.
I know, and that's the rumor that I keep hearing. And another one I've heard earlier is another guy that's linked with possibly a guy that could come to Alabama's Cliff Kingsbury. People are pointing back to a press conference that Bill Belichick did where he just talked glowingly about Cliff Kingsbury. And so, if somebody that Belichick likes, Saban likes, and vice versa. I mean, those guys have always just kind of had a natural simpatico as far as who they like that are in the game right now.
Yeah, and they're two peas in a pod.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like each other in behavior and everything they do on the sideline. But, that wouldn't be a surprise. And if BC there, he'll do a great job offensively for the Patriots because he can. And he understands the pro game and what you got to get out of your quarterback.
Yep.
And I think our quarterback Jones would do well with a Brian O'Brien or a Kingsbury. Any one of those two would be good for him. But just wanted to throw that in there, tell y'all you've done a great job again, and good luck in your future.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you much for listening. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. Always great.
All right, see you. Bye.
Thank you. We are taking your phone calls today, 256-413-1029. Maybe you want to weigh in on who should be the next defensive coordinator of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And now that we've received the news that Pete Golding headed to Ole Miss to take that same position, 256-413-1029 as we cruise through our final edition of WKXX Live here on this Friday afternoon. But it will be interesting to see. And as I'm reading through Twitter, a lot of people think Nick Saban probably already has his mind made up of who it's going to be. It's just getting the dotting all the I's and cross the T's now.
Yeah, and obviously it's a little bit, you have to jump a little bit more hurdles on the college level than you do on the professional level. The professional level, you talk to an ownership group, I's dotted, T's crossed. On the high school, college level, obviously you have to go through administration. The board has to get involved with the contracts and all that. It's just a little bit more red tape, and it might take a couple more days. But I won't be a bit surprised if Nick Saban's already 3 steps ahead of all of us right now as we're speculating. He already goes to sleep tonight knowing exactly who he wants in Tuscaloosa.
Yes, and as I was reading through the message board, the Alabama fans are excited that Pete Golding has left Tuscaloosa, but I think they're more concerned that the coordinator on the other side of the ball still is in Tuscaloosa.
Exactly. I think that's also just a matter of time as well. If Bill O'Brien was going to stay, then we would have heard of a contract extension long before now. And the fact that he hasn't signed one, I think this would be a mutual parting of the ways as well. I don't think Bill O'Brien did a terrible job. I don't think he did an awful job at all. I just think that the people thought that there might be a little bit more creativity to the offense considering what you had with Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, and some of the other ones that have floated around Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, so Alabama in search of a defensive coordinator. We will take more of your phone calls. We will talk some racing. We'll talk some NFL. We'll have wild card game picks for you. All that is coming up as we roll into our final hour on WKXX Live on Fox Sports 102.9 here on our final show We'll get into that next.
The Press Box.
Talk Radio. Get ready for Chase Robinson
He has got to be a player they can rely on in big situations.
and Gerhard Mathangani
Has the trust of his team. Sounds like the makeup of his team is in a really good space, and I believe that's because of the culture he's curated down there.
for WKXX Live. These guys have you covered from preps to pros and everything in between. Now, let's go inside the Fox Sports 102.9 studio with Chase and Gerhard for WKXX Live.
Hour number 2 and our final hour of WKXX Live. It is Friday. It is January the 13th. Chase Robinson here, Gerhard Mathangani along as we got one more hour before we end WKXX Live here on Fox Sports 102.9. As we told you at the beginning of the show on Monday, the format will flip. You will be hearing Alabama's country classics here on 102.9. So WKXX 102.9 beginning Monday, Alabama's country classics. You'll be hearing the country from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s here on 102.9. So this is our final day here on Fox Sports 102.9. And we'll take your phone calls this hour. Would love to hear from you here on our last show. We've got a lot to discuss, and we've been talking about the news out of Tuscaloosa as Pete Golding is heading to Oxford, Mississippi to be the defensive coordinator of the Rebels. That opens up the defensive coordinator position in Tuscaloosa. That news will I'm sure be coming out very soon. You want to stay ahead of the game if you're Nick Saban, especially with your second signing day coming up. We got plenty of basketball this weekend, football as well. The wild card games are coming up. We'll get to that here in just a minute. But I want to hit on some racing. And we were going to get to this story yesterday. We did not get to, so we pushed it to today. We don't talk a lot of racing on this show, but there's an actor who is joining the ARCA series. This is really interesting.
Yeah, most certainly. People might remember the show Malcolm in the Middle. It won a bunch of awards. And Frankie Muniz, who was a teen star actor at the time, kind of came out of nowhere. He was a bit of a quirky kid that played on a quirky show, and the show became a smash hit. And he became an instant household name and a multimillionaire. And the show won a bunch of awards. Bryan Cranston, who ended up starring in Breaking Bad, he's now a major Hollywood celebrity. He was on the show as well. And it had just a lot of guest stars, a lot of big names that emerged from that television program. Well, behind the scenes, I don't think that many people knew that Frankie Muniz had a huge passion for racing, and not like F1 racing, stock car racing, NASCAR, and he has formulated his own team. And starting this year in 2023 season, he will race full time in the ARCA series. And so, we have an affiliation with the ARCA series. We've covered that the races over at Talladega a lot. There's some guys that are from this area. Brett Holmes comes to mind, that started in that series. And, we've been able to talk to them. So we know a lot of people who've cut their teeth in that series who've come from relative, obscurity in racing. Well, here he comes from superstardom in the world of acting, and he comes now into the world of racing.
Yeah, you don't get this a lot, but I think it's really cool. I mean, he wanted to do it. It's a dream of his. So, hey, go do it.
Exactly.
By all means. And so, and we actually had a chance to hear from him courtesy of Front Office Sports.
Yeah, he talked a little bit about his passions and put into context why he's getting into racing and the kind of love that he has for the sport as compared to his other celebrity being in entertainment.
It's not that I'm chasing that, you know what I mean? It's that I'm extremely happy with the life that I have, with my wife, my son, and everything I've gotten to accomplish. It's the fact that I want to be successful. You know what I mean? It's not that I have to be because I had it before. I have drive, I have passion, and I want to be now in racing. I want to be the best. I want to be the fastest. I want to win. I want to win the championship. I want to win races, and I think maybe that's why I have so much passion for racing. Is it's something that is, you can see the result. It's it's in black and white. It's tangible. Like you either you get there or you don't. Compared to, the one thing I I don't like as an actor is I can feel like I gave my best performance ever. Right? I can feel like I worked the hardest I've ever worked, and I can watch it and think I'm so proud of that. But someone's opinion could be that it's the worst work I ever did, or it's the worst thing they've ever seen. There's no way to actually really gauge. It's people's opinion of a show, of comedy, of drama, of whatever. And I love the aspect of racing because depending on how hard I work, how fast I am, and getting that and doing it, you're going to see it. You see it literally in the results. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I like that. That's an attainable or a goal that I can reach, or I can try to reach.
So Frankie Muniz there, taking the step, getting into racing, getting in the ARCA series, racing full time. I like it. That's cool.
No doubt. And I think there's something intrinsic to human beings that we like when people pursue passions, because I think everybody else has passions as well, whether it's in a career or a side hustle or academically, or you want to attain something. And I think that there's something inside of all of us that roots for people that want to do that. And so I'm rooting for him to do well.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting for him to be able to attain all of his dreams. And he mentioned there on the front end of the soundbite, which I thought was interesting, he's not trying to chase his success in NASCAR and have it at the same level as a driver. He said these are two different worlds. I had success as an actor, but that world is it's in a vacuum. You say words that are written by other people, and you're told when to say it by a director, and you're told when to get to work by a producer, and it's here, and there's very little creativity. And then in the racing world, it's your team. It's your group of people. It's your guys, and you get to go out, put a car out on the track. You get to get behind the wheel, and there's documented proof of here's what you did, here's how you did it. I can understand it from a person, and you and I like sports mainly because there's a scoreboard.
Yeah.
You have tangible evidence of who's good, who's not good. It's not subjective like the entertainment world is, like movies and television and music is. And so I find it really interesting that he's going to the world, and I'm rooting for him.
I would have never put that together without this story, without him saying that. But it's true. I mean, I think it's really cool that he's doing this, and I've never thought about that, but cool stuff there for actor Frankie Muniz in the ARCA series. You'll see him at the Talladega Super Speedway in first of May. You can see him race there. That'll be pretty cool. Let's grab a timeout here. We'll come back. We will preview the wild card games. We'll also make our picks within the previews. So stick around as we roll on. Get your phone calls in. No phone calls in the final segment today. That's going to be us. So you can get them in. Coming up next year on WKXX Live.
The Department of Labor can help.
WKXX Live. We continue here on this Friday afternoon on our final show of WKXX Live. We will take your phone calls, 256-413-1029. We've got NFL playoffs beginning this weekend. Got the wild card round, and we've got some good games here in the 6-game wild card slate. And we'll walk through the games, and then we will give our picks for the games. But before we get into this, our picks are not going to go into our final tally, obviously, because this is the last show. We won't get to tell you anymore. So I want to see how we did through the regular season, through 18 weeks. How did our pick'em end up?
All right, so for those new to the proceedings, we pick every game on the slate outside of the Thursday game. If it's a Thursday game, we don't pick it, obviously. We start Friday, we go all the way through Monday Night Football. We did that from the very beginning of the season, right after preseason in week 1. We went all the way to week 18 of the season, pick every game straight up, and then also 3 of our favorite games against the spread. So I'll give you 2 different tallies here. For our games last week, you had a great week. Every team played. So we picked every game on the slate, all 16 games. You went 12-4, and I went 10-6 a week ago. So that brings the final tally after 249 games picked. I had a record of 151-98. You had a record of 143-106. So I ended up winning by 8 games. So I won that one by 8 games. And then against the spread, we both picked games against the spread. We had a rough week last week against the spread. You had Houston covering the spread. They ended up winning the game over the Colts. But you missed New York Jets +3 and the Browns +2.5. Meanwhile, I got Pittsburgh -2.5, but missed Tampa Bay, and I missed Jacksonville. However, against the spread, your final tally, 23-28-3. I went 26-26-2, so barely winning. I won there, but we had a great season overall. And our other show that we had together, the college football kickoff show, we picked 6 games against the spread, or 6 games total. You ended up winning that. College, I ended up winning the pros by 8 games, and so it was a good year of prognostications.
Yes, that was fun. I like doing that every week. Before we get into this week's, let's go to the phone lines. We got Bo on with us. How are you today, Bo?
I'm doing good, guys. I know y'all going to resurface somewhere. I really have enjoyed the time and effort that y'all have put into making this show what it is. And I'm just a breath of fresh air listening to y'all.
Well, I appreciate that, Bo. It's been great to have you call in, and we've had plenty to talk about, and yeah, we appreciate you for listening.
Yeah, always great for your insights, and we certainly appreciate the kind words.
Well, I think the Braves is going to. I believe they got a chance to get back in there. They're going to be in the conversation. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no doubt. I think they will. I think this is going to be a good team. I'm ready. I'm ready for some baseball to get started.
All right, guys. Well, I'll be brief. I know you time is running short, and I appreciate y'all. And like I said, I'll be looking for y'all to resurface somewhere. Is it going to happen, or what's your plan right now?
We'll see. We're trying to figure it out. Maybe on a podcast you'll catch us sometime soon, maybe. But yeah, we're figuring things out.
Yeah, still in the developmental stages, but we'll work it out, and we'll definitely get the word out.
Okay, good deal, y'all. Y'all take care now. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Bo.
Thanks,
really
Bo.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Man, love the callers. Love the listeners. Have thoroughly enjoyed this part of the job for sure. To kind of get into some NFL wild card games now. First one up, I want to talk about Seahawks at 49ers. This is the third meeting here. 49ers have won both of the previous.
Right.
You know, they always say it's hard to beat a team twice. It's hard to beat them 3 times, though.
It certainly is, and Geno Smith is having a fantastic season, but by nature of the way that San Fran's playing right now, I don't care if they're on a 5th-string quarterback. They have just, it doesn't matter. It's been plug and play for this team. D'Amico Ryans, who we heard from yesterday, has a great handle of what they're doing defensively. Probably the best unit on the field is that San Fran defense. And Seattle they are playing above their heads right now, and I really, really like their story. I just will see Seattle as a really formidable opponent, but San Fran being the better football team going into the game. Yeah, it is hard to beat a team 3 times, but the spread is 9 for a reason.
Yes, yes, it is. So, as far as the 49ers, if they win this one, do you see them being able to make a good run in the playoffs?
I certainly do. I believe that of all the teams that I believe that are playing in the wild card weekend that I think have the best chance to make it to the Super Bowl, San Fran's at the very, very top of this list. And it's mainly because they obviously play in the NFC, probably the quote unquote easier conference to play in. But take the 2 wild card teams, the 2 teams that have the number 1 seed, you take them out, the teams playing the wild card weekend, best chance to make it to the Super Bowl. I got the maroon and gold.
Yeah. Seahawks 49ers. I'll take the 49ers in this
same.
one. It's kind of like I said, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, but the 49ers are a team that can do that. They're that good. Next up, Chargers at Jaguars. That will be tomorrow, 7:15 on ESPN. What are you looking for out of this one?
This is an interesting one because to me, the Chargers don't necessarily play a brand of football that I really love. They have great talent. I like Justin Herbert a whole lot. Love Keenan Allen. Austin Eckler is fantastic. Joey Bosa and some of those defensive guys are really good. To me, this is a team, though, that's kind of limping into the playoffs physically as far as just the overall team health. But then also from a dynamic standpoint, I thought this team would be playing much better. They're 10-7. I just think that although the Chargers, player 1 to player 53, have a better roster, I just really love the way the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing right now. I really like Trevor Lawrence. I think his growth and stability has been solidified this year. He dealt with all the nonsense last year with Urban Meyer and all the chaos with the franchise. I think that Doug Peterson has really given him a solid ground. And so while the Chargers are, to me, a more talented team, I like the way Jacksonville's playing. And yeah, Jacksonville's home field probably not going to give them that much of an advantage. It's not like you're playing, in Chicago.
Right.
But I like what Jacksonville's doing. And I like Jacksonville to pull off the upset here and get the win there at home.
All right, so you're taking the Jags. I'm going to go with the Chargers.
Okay.
I think the Chargers may go in there and get a win against the Jaguars. Next up, you got the Dolphins at the Bills. This is a noon game on Sunday, CBS. They've got Buffalo -13 in this game.
This is one of those games where I just wish that Tua stayed healthy.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game. It's a completely different ball game with healthy Tua. Ryan Brown, who we spoke with at the beginning of the week, he's a huge Dolphin fan. I think he put it perfectly. With Tua, this is a game because they played them really well in December. And even with the backup quarterback, they played them really well in December. I think Buffalo, you take all the DeMar Hamlin stuff and you put that in one vacuum. They're playing inspired football already. And then you take a division rival here in the playoffs. I think they'll ride the momentum. I think 13 might be a number as crazy as it is, covering a 13-point spread. I can see that, but basically it's not going to be because the Dolphins are just terrible. It's because they're missing Tua.
Yeah, and again, like you said, I would love to see this game with Tua in with a healthy Dolphins team. I think this could be a really good one. But yeah, I'm going to go with Buffalo as well, just based on the injuries and where the Dolphins sit. But you really hate we're at this point in this game where we're not getting to see it.
Yeah.
In with 2 healthy teams.
Mm-hmm. And it's another one of those games where it's kind of like Seattle and San Fran. It would have been a third meeting between these 2 teams, and the second with Tua in there. And just the fact that this game is also in Buffalo, I think I might still even like Buffalo by a hair in Buffalo, but the fact that Miami played them so well, it wouldn't be as easy as it is right now. So of all the what ifs, right, that have gone on to end the college football and pro football season, this little span of time over the last maybe 6 weeks since the bowl season started, the what if for me is if Tua was healthy, it'd be a much different game.
Yep, for sure. And so you got the Bills, Dolphins, also got the Giants at the Minnesota Vikings. This is a 3:30 Fox game on Sunday. This will be the Is this a third matchup for these two?
I believe it's the second matchup. This is just a second matchup between these two, unless they played a preseason game. I don't have their preseason situations all set up, but with the Vikings and the Giants, I believe that this is a game that on paper, this is a Vikings win. Vikings won the first game 27-24 really early in the year, third game of the season. This is to me Vikings 13-4, Giants 9-7, Brian Daboll and their crew, they're doing a really good job, but then it's like a comma and a but. To me, the Vikings are a good team, but they've won way too many close games. I saw your favorite guy, Jeff Saturday, and the Indianapolis Colts have a 33-point lead on Minnesota in Minnesota. And my eyes just can't unsee that. And while I really like Minnesota, and I like Justin Jefferson a lot, I think he's one of the best receivers in the game, and I really like Kirk Cousins. I think that he gets a little bit undervalued. This just feels to me like there's always that crazy upset game in there, and people might be saying, you already picked it. You already picked the Jaguars to beat the Chargers.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick, this is the bigger upset to me in this game. I know the Vikings are a more talented football team, but something just tells me that I don't know if the Vikings are completely buttoned up going into this game. Give me the New York Giants and Brian Daboll, the former Alabama assistant coach, to lead that team against the Minnesota Vikings, to go into Minnesota and win.
I love it. That's exactly who I'm going with as well. I think the Giants. I've been high on the Giants all year.
Yeah.
I picked them probably a little too much, but I've liked them all year long, and I keep liking them. And I think they do beat the Vikings as well. Next up, Ravens at Bengals. This is a 7:15 NBC Sunday Night Football game. Cincinnati, we saw what they were able to do last year. Can they do it again? Will it start Sunday?
I think so. The Ravens are just such an unfortunate situation. We just talked about this with Tua in the other AFC wildcard game. The Ravens are in the exact same situation. The Lamar Jackson situation is not as clear as the Tua situation is. The Tua situation is very clear. We've seen him get concussed 2 for sure, and possibly a third time this season. We've seen those injuries, so to speak. With Lamar Jackson, he was expected back late December. He was expected back on Christmas Eve. For some reason, we haven't got it back. And people keep pointing to the contract and the fact that he hasn't been able to agree with the Ravens on a long-term deal. He saw Patrick Mahomes make a lot of money. He's seen Josh Allen sign a big deal. And most recently, he's seen Kyler Murray sign a deal for over $180 million guaranteed. And the biggest and most egregious contract, the Deshaun Watson contract, $230 million of guaranteed money. That's the new quarterback market. And I don't know if Lamar Jackson's getting it. Is there a contract dispute there where he's now saying, I'm not going to risk it because of X? I'm not saying that he is. It's just that I've seen this kid play through a whole lot, and it sounds to me like he's shelving himself for negotiation table. Yeah. And I just can't trust the Ravens with the backup quarterback against Cincinnati. That defense is playing way too well.
You're right about that.
I got the Bengals.
I'm going to take the Bengals in this one as well. Cowboys at Bucks. This will be Monday night, 7:15 on ESPN for Monday Night Football. Can the Bucks make a run in the playoffs, or is it going to be the Cowboys? People have been high on this year. What do you think of this one? They got Dallas 2.5-point favorite.
The only team with a losing record in the playoffs are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are 8-9, and they have looked egregious on offense. They cannot run the football. They are shaky defensively, especially against the run. They've been solid, putting up here quickly, but they don't have a pass rush without Shaq Barrett. You would think that I'm making all the Cowboys arguments the reason why they would win. It's the one thing that I think everybody's thinking. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have number 12. And I just can't bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs, especially at home. I think they found something 2 games ago against the Carolina Panthers. I got 3 upsets here in the wild card round. I got the Jaguars winning at home. I got the New York Giants winning on the road. And I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ousting the Dallas Cowboys at home. Give me Tampa Bay.
All right. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys in this one. They get the win, keep going, and I think this is the best time for the Cowboys to be able to keep winning. So I'm gonna take Dallas. So those are our NFL thoughts and picks for the weekend. We'll take a break, your last chance for phone calls coming up on the other side of the break.
The Press Box, where the big
WKXX Live, Fox Sports 102.9. Jason Gerhard with you as we make our way through our final edition of WKXX Live here on this Friday afternoon. Coming Monday, as we told you at the top of the show, Alabama's Country Classics 102.9 begins on Monday. You'll be hearing classic country from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s right here on 102.9. We'll go to the phone lines here as we get ready to roll into the back half of our final show. And Jeremy is on the line with us. Good afternoon, Jeremy.
What's going on, guys? What's new?
Not a lot.
Oh man, I squeezed some stuff in here before we get to the matter at hand. But good for Alabama. Thank God he's going to Ole Miss. I wish that Bill O'Brien was driving the U-Haul and going with him. But that's good. I think Jeremy Pruitt will be the next DC. I feel like Saban. I feel like that that's going to be part of his rehabilitation process. Get another school by the NCAA. He's going to have to serve his 2 years under Nick Saban as defensive coordinator down there at the Nick Saban School of Rehabilitation for coaches. So that and hey, can't be a segment on this show with me calling in without talking about the Atlanta Braves signing AJ Minter today to a 3-year contract extension.
Yes.
Very, very pleased to see that. Of all the bad decisions that Anthopoulos has made this December, that's a good one to get through and finally get done, is getting AJ Minter back in there.
Yeah, he's a steady piece. He's a steady piece in that bullpen.
Well, we've discussed this, I think, to exhaustion between the three of us. Atlanta needs to solidify the bullpen for this upcoming season, and I think that's just the general feeling amongst all Atlanta Braves fans is they want to see a bullpen that you don't have to worry about. I mean, yeah, Luke Jackson's gone, and how long have we been waiting to see that? He had his moments where he scared everybody to death, then has a great postseason, and then you go, oh wait, we got the old Luke Jackson back. So it's a time with Atlanta. They need something done, and I think that's a start. So
yeah, for sure, I agree with that.
We got a championship game, AFC championship game coming to Atlanta.
Yep,
that's big. I'm excited about that. That may be something that, if it happens, may try to get out there for that, because that'll be exciting to see two teams play that you don't normally get a chance to see play.
Yeah, for sure, and I think that's great for this area to have a chance to see that.
Well, and y'all just gave you picks, so let me go ahead and give you the lock.
Okay.
Yeah.
49ers. I'm the 49ers game. I think that you discussed it very perfectly just a moment ago. Yes, it's hard to beat a team twice, but it's really hard to beat a team 3 times, especially when they're coming in looking real purty like the 49ers are.
Good. I like that.
Well, guys, I want to finish out here. Whatever the future holds for you two, I'm sure I'll see it, because we keep in touch with each other throughout the social media and all that stuff, and I know I'll see it, support it wherever and whatever it is. Chase, thank you for taking that call on the first show, and just you guys have done a great job. You kept I feel like you kept the area informed on local sports. I mean, that's been the biggest thing that I've taken away, is you don't have a lot of local sports coverage for anything, because our markets are Birmingham and Huntsville, and you don't hear much about your local teams and certain areas and certain venue aspects don't cover the local teams like they should. And you guys did a great job with that. You guys did a great job getting in depth and finding out stuff about the local teams, getting to know the coaches, getting to know the players. And I mean, it just, it showed, and I'm very glad that I got to hear it. I'm very glad I got to be a part of it, and in small ways. And you got, like I said, you guys have got a great future ahead of you. I think that it's bright. And whatever it is, whether it be another radio show, podcast, TV, whatever you do, take callers, and I'll be your first caller.
Well, awesome. Jeremy, we really appreciate you, and let me tell you, on those random afternoons in June when I was hosting a show by myself. I thoroughly enjoyed when you called in. You definitely gave me somebody to talk to, and I knew you were always there and always listening, and really appreciate developing a friendship with you as well. So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, Jeremy, I want to chime right in. I know you might have something to say on the back end of that, but what I've always really appreciated is really smart listeners, and I'm saying that kind of a big picture from a standpoint of from this world in general. You get a lot of people who watch sports but don't really know sports, but you really know it, and you really breathe it, and we share the same passions. And you've been phenomenal. And I know our time here between you and I have been really short, but I feel like I already know you, and want to thank you so much for the kind words. And it's been a pleasure. And I echo everything Chase just said about building this friendship and everything you've done to support what we're doing here, and your insight. And you give me a lot of things that haven't crossed my mind as well. And so you've been a real asset and real blessing to us and our work here.
Well, y'all given the opportunity for a fan insight, because a lot of folks, you have a lot of these guys that are to host these radio shows that are former players, or they're former this or former that. And if you listen in a daily basis, there's only two shows that take phone calls on this station, and that was the Dan Patrick Show and you guys. And the shows that reach out and take the fans in like that usually get, that's the ones that do well, and y'all did a great job of that by letting the fans get involved and letting it. But I will close with this and let you know this, Chase. I'll probably have to meet up with you to give you this, but of our friendship, we've talked a long time, and our biggest conversation piece has always been the Atlanta Braves.
Yes,
and I have a World Series championship ring that I want to give you.
Wow.
For the end of this show.
Wow.
So,
well, I appreciate that, Jeremy.
When we went to that Oakland game last year, we were riding over, and I told my fiance, I really wish that this game would have been a little later, and we could have got Chase to come with us, because I know how much he wants one of these rings.
Yeah.
And so as a parting gift for the last show, and for all that y'all, everything you've done throughout this tenure of hosting this show, I want to give you one of these rings.
Well, Jeremy, I really appreciate that. That means a lot, and going back to what you were saying a minute ago, we're fans too, and so we're just privileged to get to sit behind the mic. But it's great to have another fan like you to get to talk back and forth with, and I've thoroughly enjoyed all of our trying to fix all the Braves' problems that they have had, and winning a World Series together. Jeremy, we won a World Series together.
That was the toughest. That was the toughest year.
Yeah,
too.
It was.
I mean, if you remember our conversations were very bleak about the future in May and June.
You're right.
and all of a sudden it was just like, hey, wait a minute, what is happening here?
You're right. Well, Jeremy, we appreciate you for listening. Appreciate you always calling, and it's been a privilege. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys, and y'all have a good one, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Well,
Go Braves.
We appreciate that. Go Braves, Jeremy. Always good to hear from our loyal listeners. Before we go to break, we love breaking news here on the show. We don't get it a lot. We've had one story already, Pete Golding going to Ole Miss. We've got huge high school football news coming out as we speak, and it affects people right here in the city we live in at Westbrook Christian. And I know I'll let you, Gerhard, kind of guide this, but huge breaking high school football news.
Yeah, you mentioned that we don't get a whole lot of breaking news in this time slot, and I don't know if it's the radio gods or the football guys that have brought us a couple of, one of the first hour and one of the second hour, but it is official. Head coach of the Piedmont Bulldogs, Steve Smith, has effectively retired from the public school sector, effective at the end of this semester on May 26th, and he has agreed to become the new head coach and athletic director at Westbrook Christian School right here in Rainbow City. So it is Steve Smith, multi-time state championship head coach at Piedmont High School, will retire from the public school sector effective at the end of this semester in late May to become the head coach of football and the new athletics director at Westbrook Christian School, a guy that you and I know very well.
Yes.
We've talked on multiple occasions. That is coming from him directly, and he let members of the media know, members of the local media that covered him in the Calhoun County area and that will cover him in the Etowah County area, the exact same news. So it is confirmed that Steve Smith is headed to Rainbow City.
There we go. And we're going to go to the phone lines one more time. And I want to welcome on former co-host of this show, Craig Cameron is on with us. Craig, how in the world are you?
I'm great, man. How are y'all?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Man, I hated to hear the news this week, but I knew I had to call in at some point this week, and I called y'all, I guess, right the last hour, last bit.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a sad day, but folks like you, Craig, help this show in so many ways, and we certainly wouldn't be here without you and the help you gave. And hey, we spent 6 months sitting in this room together.
Yes, sir. And it's likewise. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity Fox Sports gave me. A lot of great memories of the station. We got to watch the Braves win the World Series together.
Yep.
Alabama go to national championship last year. I mean, just a lot of sports stories together. We had to witness, and a lot of fun memories there. I always cherish.
Absolutely. Likewise. Good stuff, Craig. Thanks so much for calling in and for all you've done.
Of course. Same here, Chase. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks,
you
Craig.
too.
You too.
Craig Cameron, former co-host here of this show. Great to hear from Craig. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll put a wrap on WKXX Live next.
The furniture.
WKXX Live on Fox Sports 102.9. Chase and Gerhard back with you on our final show, our final segment here on this final show. We just heard from our former producer and co-host, Craig Cameron. Craig came to us. He had just graduated from JSU, did so great with everything we tasked him to do, and was a great because before Craig came, it was just me. I was flying solo, and if you, it's fun to sit here and talk sports. It really is, but when it's just you by yourself for 2 hours, it can be a lot, especially on mid-June on a Tuesday afternoon when there's not a lot going on. So it was great to have Craig step in and co-host the show, and he did a great job. He's got a very bright future ahead of him. And when he left, I was back by myself, and I knew I had to find someone to step in and fill that role. And Gerhard, I know we've worked together before in TV. You was the sports director, and I'd come mess around some, and you've just been co-hosting with us for the last 5 months since August 1st, but really you've been a part of this show since the beginning. You were on the very first show. You were a guest. I went back and looked. You were a guest at 2:40 on our very first day, March 22nd. So you've been a part of this show since day one. And it has been great to have you in here since the beginning as a guest, and then since August 1st to be able to sit across the desk and talk sports every afternoon.
This has been really fun and fun for so many reasons. And I do remember the very first show, and I remember you and I talked about your venture into radio. And then when you asked if I could be a guest, I jumped. I was like, of course, if I can help with any content, any way. And so that didn't start our friendship. I mean, we've been friends for years and years and years before that, but it kind of migrated into a different world. And then in the summertime, I was needing some help, and then you were right there, and you pitched my name to the people that needed to hear it, and they said, "Yeah, come on." And that was a blessing in so many ways, and even more than you know. And so it was great to see how those worlds shifted, where we could help each other out on the television side, and then we could help each other out on the radio side as well. And this venture has been really fun too, because as we both know, TV, it's got its very good perks, but there's not that listener base. And Jeremy kind of highlighted this a little bit, and Craig did as well, where you get to call in and have almost more of an open-minded conversation about everything that's going on in the world of sports, and be able to not only break news, but have insightful conversation. And so it's been really uplifting for me as well to be on this side for the first time here as a radio host. So I got to see this show in so many different ways. As a guest, as a fan, I would listen to it on my way to work. And if I was going to go shoot a story, I would be listening as you were talking to guests as well. So as a listener, as a fan, as a participant, and as a co-host, and I can't thank you enough. You've done a phenomenal job. And as everybody's told you a lot, I'm sure over text, over calls, and here as listeners, that your future is very, very bright in this space and in other spaces as well. And so I can't wait to at least be a part of it and be a fan. And once again, the biggest thing I have is just so much gratitude and appreciation for you and for what this platform has been able to do for me.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. And again, our friendship goes back a long way. We've been able to do some cool stuff and go some cool places in TV and now in radio, and certainly do appreciate you. And just as I've been kind of reflecting this week on today, I'm excited of the future in whatever realm, with the station, my professional future, all that. I'm excited, but as I was reflecting this week, and I remember our conversations, even, back when I was 18, 19 years old, we were going to SEC Media Days, that kind of thing. And, telling you, I want to be in sports radio. That's like my dream.
Right.
And for the last little over 2 years of working here, I've been living the dream. And we started this station was started in August of 2020. They hired me in November of 2020 to be the program director. Our then general manager, Alex Maston, tasked me with, I want you to do a afternoon local sports talk show. And starting in November, I said, I want to make this the best it can be before we get this started. And so I immediately began working, wanting to make the best possible show. And so March 22nd, 2021, we launched this show, WKXX Live. Since that day, our goal has been to entertain you, to have fun with you, but also to inform you of what's going on here locally, right here in Northeast Alabama, in the state of Alabama, in the Southeast. I'm a sports fan, and I got an opportunity to talk sports. I love local sports, high school sports, and this gave me the opportunity to do that. And with this job, with this show, we've been able to do some cool things. I mean, take the show to the region's tradition, to the Bassmaster Tournament, to Greenville, South Carolina for a Jacksonville State-Auburn March Madness game, to SEC Media Days, to the Talladega Super Speedway. And I could go on and on about the cool things I got to do, the places I got to see, of being in this job and getting to do this show. And also with that comes relationships with coaches that I've been able to make, that I'm forever thankful for, relationships with listeners that I've been able to make. These, you that are listening, I appreciate you so much, because you're not just a listener to me. I've become friends with a lot of you, and I'm forever thankful for that. When you can leave something like this and take away meaningful friendships, that's incredible. That's what it's all about. And you listeners are the reason that we do what we do. It's not just to hear ourselves talk. It's to entertain and inform you. And so it has been a true honor that you chose to listen to us, this station, this show. I'm forever thankful for every one of you. I never thought when this show started that it would have reached this, and the people that listened, the guests we were able to get. We've talked to some really cool guests. I hope you've enjoyed them as much as I've enjoyed talking to them. This truly has been an honor, been a blast to do every afternoon. Again, I'm living the dream doing this show. And as the old quote, all good things come to an end. Well, this is coming to an end. This chapter is coming to a close at WKXX Live. But I want to thank each and every one of you listening for taking time to listen, for reaching out, for calling in, for encouraging. Even when you didn't know you were encouraging me, you were. And I thank you for that. Gerhard, thank you so much for doing this, for being here, for supporting me, for supporting this show. And I'm so incredibly thankful as I walk out this afternoon, ending this show. It's sad. Again, this is a dream job for me, but I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, this has been fantastic, and I'll let you have the final word. But I do want my last words to be a measure of appreciation as I talk into this microphone, and as I talk to you, an appreciation of everybody you just hit on. The guests that we've been able to talk to, prominent people in and around sports, participants, callers, everybody else. My last words on here are thank you.
Great last words, as are mine. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have enjoyed bringing this to you. We'll be around. We're not going away. We'll be in the community, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you out and keeping in touch with you. But thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. This has been an honor and an enjoyment to be with you and to talk with you every afternoon. Thank you.
Fox Sports 102.9.